All right, welcome to this podcast. I got a little bit of a special treat today. I'm sitting here with the world champion Scott Russell, and one of the things that makes it so I'm motivated to do a better job is I get to ride with Scott quite a bit, and aside from the fact that Scott is just an incredible person, the talent that he has on a motorcycle is just amazing. And again, I've been blessed enough to be able to ride with Scott. And one of the things that when I rode with Scott that I noticed right out of the gate was how good his bike placement was. And even though Scott was riding at the time a stock FZ1, and we ride FZ1s all the time together, just seeing what he does on a bike and why, it's just what the best in the world do. So Scott's here. Hi, Scott.
Hi, Ken.
And what I guess I want to talk to Scott a little bit about bike placement in general, what his thoughts are of what he sees where the bike should be and how that's helped him in his riding.
Yeah, basically for me, consistency every lap is key in this sport, and putting your bike in the right place, entering the corner is very important, and obviously, you know, we break the corner down into two areas, really, the entrance and the exit. And for me, the entrance to the corner, you know, is so critical because you want to maximize your braking. And then in the middle of the corner, when you get the bike to rotate, you got to make sure you put it where you want to be, and consistently doing that every lap after lap, and puts it in a position to where I can get to full throttle as early as I can, safely as I can. Back in the day, I didn't really look at it that way. I just knew that I needed to be consistent with where I put the bike. And every lap, tried to keep that within a foot or two, you know, even over like a Daytona 257 laps.
Yeah, and I think, you know, just watching the way that you rode, I mean, it was just so obvious when we got to ride with you. Yours, I mean, honestly, your bike placement, right? The bike placement having the bike in a position to accelerate, quite honestly, was just better than ours. I mean, it was 3 inches, it was 6 inches, but it was enough to where you were able to get the bike stood up a little sooner and at full throttle sooner than we could. And those are the lessons that we took away from you, is just how much more precise that was. Can you give us an example of like how big of an advantage was that for you? And do you have any good examples for us?
Well, obviously, I'm going to refer to Daytona, where I had so much success, and being on a harder tire and more critical to get it off the edge of the tire. I think the International Horseshoe at Daytona, both of the horseshoes were where I really shined, and being able to pick the right line on the entrance of the corner, not really setting up and using all of this really wide racetrack when I didn't need to make the bike move out to the outside to set up for the corner. I could go in tighter. My middle corner speed was probably slower than the rest of the guys I was riding with, but that allowed me to get the bike turned at that point, and then I would exit those horseshoes on a real tight line. And then going back and watching the videos and the level of competition and the guys that I was racing against, I was watching their exits in the corners, and they're carrying all this lean angle all the way out to the edge of the racetrack, where I'm already at full throttle, the bike's wheeling out of the corner on these super hard tires, and I could just see myself gapping them lap after lap, and that was my strong point, and I carried that over to pretty much every track I went to. Obviously, at a normal racetrack, you wouldn't be on such a hard race tire, and it wouldn't be as critical as it was for me there. I could carry more lean angle safer with a standard tire, but I guess that taught me how to do that and instill that in me. And then when I came here to ride with you guys on the FC1s, then you go back to street tires. There we are again in that same situation. Yeah. I got to get it off the tire.
Yeah, so when it matters, it really matters, right? Because you just don't have the grip available. And so, being able to see that's pretty huge. And anybody that's listening, if you ever get a chance to come ride with Scott, it's just, again, being able to watch what one of the best riders in the world does, how they approach it, is just a real treat. And going back to what Scott said a little bit, so how did all that start? All it started was on the entry, right? So he's figuring out where the bike needs to be. He was working it backwards. He knows where he wants to be on the exit. So then that's how he starts his entry, and of course respecting where the bike has to be slowed and pointed, and that is just such a big deal. being able to respect that spot. So, Scott, I mean, again, bike placement. Your bike placement is just so good. Any other thoughts, just in general? I like as far as riding, you get to ride with some of the best riders in the world. I mean, how did you approach your riding like that? And I mean, just for the people listening, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, obviously you got to be disciplined, and if you want to be the best, you've got to be as consistent as you possibly can. And every session out, you're striving for that perfection, and trying to put the bike in the right place, trying to analyze a corner and how can I make this corner work for me better than the other guys, and that came down to how my bike might be working that day, and against Ducati's different bikes. And so for me, back in those days, I think racing against Fogarty and the guys in Europe, racing against the Ducatis, the big twins, that really made me get the bike pointed early, because I knew they were going to gap me off the corner with the twins, and my bike was strong in the middle and on the top, but so it was even more important for me to make sure that every exit off every corner was the best it could be.
Yeah, we talk about that, and having worked with me, right? We talk about taking advantage of what all those corners offer, and one of the series I just did was on entry corners and exit corners and all that stuff. And I think just riding with you, it's just so natural for you to do that, right? It's like, oh well, that's an entry corner, so yeah, I just use my brakes as long as I need to because it's an entry corner. And it's the same thing that you're talking about on the exits, right? So the Ducatis would naturally get off the corner, amazingly well. So you had to take an exit corner and make an even better exit corner in that regard.
Yeah. Try to make my straightaway a little bit longer, where I could get to full throttle quicker than they were, because they didn't need to get to full throttle like I did as soon, just to get that kind of drive. So it made me a better rider, and it made me work on my craft, and I had to be as perfect as I could be in those days.
Scott, we just wanted a couple quick words with you just regarding the whole bike placement thing, and it comes off just the little series that I just did. For people that are starting, like, well, gosh, I don't have the natural ability that you had. Anything that you can, just some quick, 15-second, 30-second thing on what people out there, a normal guy, right? Guy's got a full-time job. He's just doing track days or whatever. Any just words of wisdom or stuff you wish you would have done, or anything to help anybody out there?
Well, obviously now, I would say if you really want to be good at your sport, then you don't have a lot of time, then you need to come have some coaching done, and you need to get with Ken or any of us at Rick, and that would be a good place to start, I would say. And just, there's a shortcut to this stuff that I didn't have back in the day, and I crashed a lot learning this, and I think now, we're in a position to help people and move them along a lot quicker in their riding.
Yeah, and I totally appreciate that. And again, just having been around you and seeing how methodical you were, and looking at all those things, and the stories of how you got into the sport and how you learned it, and it goes right back to what we do, which is what the best in the world do, and that's why you're here with us. So thanks much, and I'm sure we'll be doing a few more of these.
Thank you.